Welcome to the First and 30 podcast. This is episode 35. Antonino, tell him, what are we doing again?
We give you those 4 juicy downs in 30 short minutes to give you just what you need every Wednesday to get you through hump day. Good to have everyone in.
Heck yeah, that's what we do. And Antonino, week 3, NFL actions behind us. We're going to get into all that here in a moment, but you went to a game this weekend, did you not? Tell me about this real quick.
Yep, I went to One Buck Place. I rooted for those Buccaneers. We fired the cannons. I had the honor of taking someone to their first NFL game. It was a spectacle. Gotta love football. You had Pirates left and right, but it was a bad day to be a Pirate because that final score, not so great.
Yeah, not the outcome you would have looked for, but how does the stadium rank? I'm just kind of curious. Out of like all the NFL stadiums you've been to, is it like up there as one of the best, kind of middle of the tier? Because Tampa Bay, don't they have like a pirate ship with like a playground or something in their stadium?
They have a flipping pirate ship in their stadium. Every time they get a touchdown, they fire the cannons. So cool. They have like a whole little pirate village there with places to get food and drinks. It's not the newest stadium, but it definitely has all the quirks that you like to see, and you have palm trees everywhere, so the vibe was right.
That's sick. Okay, so you were living it up in paradise in the Buccaneer Village then in Tampa Bay. Sick, man. All right, well, we have a lot of cool stuff to get into. Obviously, every week in the NFL, there's a handful of drama that we can untap and dissect and examine. So without further ado, do we want to hop into first down and kick off this episode?
Absolutely. Let's talk about these, undefeated teams?
That's right. All right. So we're going to highlight and talk through the, 5 undefeated teams that are remaining here in the NFL. And for those that aren't aware of who those 5 teams are, we have the Minnesota Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kansas City Chiefs, Seattle Seahawks, and Buffalo Bills. Out of those names, just off real quick, man, any like standing out as a surprise as being an undefeated at this point in the season?
I mean, surprise, it's got to be the Steelers. Justin Fields, like we weren't sure if it was Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. No one really knew what to expect out of Pittsburgh, but there has to be an asterisk somewhere that their schedule kind of hasn't been that tough. But I always say a win's a win, but they did play the Chargers with Herbert on a half an ankle, the Broncos and Knicks kind of in his first couple starts. And then the Falcons with Cousins on his first game back from Achilles. So the timing's everything, but that's my biggest surprise.
Yeah. The defenses looked great against some mediocre offense, we can say. But right now, Pittsburgh's defense leads the league in total yards allowed, only 689 total yards. So that's 229 a game. They've only allowed 26 points in these first 3 games, man. So that's like 8 points a game. Also leads the league. And they're tied 4th in takeaways. So 5 takeaways, a +4 turnover differential. So the defense is looking Pittsburgh-esque.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? I mean, I get it. The competition is what it is, but still, these are NFL teams they're playing, and they're handling business on defense.
Yeah, TJ Watt. He's still TJ Watt. Okay, folks. He's a beast. He's getting to the quarterback, especially going against quarterbacks that aren't as mobile. He's doing what he does, and that in turn helps the offense. A good defense is a good offense. You play the field position game. It's been a thing of beauty in Pittsburgh. I'm sure their fans love it. So let's see how long it can go for.
But you don't love it, do you?
It's short-lived. Short-lived.
No. So you're not giving the Steelers credit. So out of these squads, you're thinking, they're pretenders.
they have the Colts next week, so they might get one more week out of this. But then after that, sayonara, suckers.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Justin Fields is still kind of up there in the air. They haven't committed to him this week yet either. They're not giving any hints at if him or Russ are going to get the start. So we'll see where that plays out. But what about Seattle, man? I was taking a look at the stats for some of these teams. Like defensively, there's a trend here. A lot of the teams that are undefeated have some of the top defensive units in the league currently. So my whole takeaway was, well, defenses win championships. Seattle, they're second in yards allowed, right behind Pittsburgh at 746. Best pass defense through the first 3 weeks, so haven't even given up 400 yards, and third most pass yards thrown. So the offense is also getting it done with Geno Smith, and they have a lot of weapons on the outside with Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett. So Seattle, they look like they could be a legit contender in the NFC West. No?
Yeah, I agree, and I think what they needed was just a new voice. Pete Carroll's not there anymore. They got Coach McDonald doing a great job. So maybe it was just that new voice, a new defensive mindset did the trick for them. So hey, again, Seattle, like I said, is timing. They played the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Dolphins with their second string and then their third string. So timing is everything, and these teams happen to play the right teams at the right time.
Okay. So you're not giving either of these teams a whole lot of credit just yet. You're not ready to crown them champions. It's seeming like, which is fair. Yeah, they've played some teams with some different circumstances and situations going on. All right, what about Minnesota? You've got to give Minnesota credit. Come on, they've taken down the then 2-0 Houston Texans, now 2-1. They took down the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers a week ago. So they're tested. They're battle tested, right? Are we giving the Vikings a little bit more credit?
I'm going to give the Vikings all their brownies here.
Okay.
Sam Darnold. This is incredible, folks. With the Jets, he was written off. He rode the bench for a whole year plus with the 49ers. The guy got his chance and he's taking full advantage. And what he's doing has never happened. In the past 20 years, a quarterback with a new team has never won all 3 games and thrown for 8 TDs, except for 5 times. And the other 2 were Kurt Warner and Matthew Stafford, who went on to Super Bowls. So very limited company, big names there. Sam Darnold could be the magic run here. This could be it. Jefferson found his match. He's getting the ball. Everyone's happy. Let's see what happens down there.
And I asked you last week, I think near the end in fourth down, are the Vikings playoff contenders and is Darnold an MVP candidate? I think you said yay and nay, kind of like
Yep.
yes, playoff contenders, kind of pumping the brakes on the whole Darnold MVP.
Yep.
But then he goes and shows up and throws 3 TDs against Houston, now leads the league in passing touchdowns with 8, as you mentioned. Are we maybe starting to turn a little bit more on that Darnold bandwagon? It sounds like Antonino.
There is a huge bet out there. Someone actually bet before the year, before McCarthy got hurt, that
Yeah.
he was going to win the MVP. Darnold would win the MVP. So that bet's still sitting out there. I know someone's hoping for that.
It,
I do think he has a chance to be Pro Bowl player, like you said.
it was me. I made the bet.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell you, Antonino, because I know how you get with gambling, and it was my one bet of the year. I figured, if I'm going to bet, I'm just going to place it all on the dark horse here.
All
So
right, fair enough. Fair enough. I like it. I like it. I like the way you work.
yeah, it's looking good for me. All right, but we had 2 other undefeated teams, the Chiefs and the Bills. Anything to say about these 2? We kind of expected them to be good. There was a little bit of murmurs before the season about Buffalo's pass catchers, and then they go ahead and put up 47 against Jacksonville the other night. So, anything to comment on Kansas City and Buffalo?
I have absolutely 0 things to say about the Kansas City referees. I mean the Chiefs,
Oh,
Kansas City
no.
Chiefs. I have nothing to say about those. I digress. I digress. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. The referees. We all know what happened. Kyle Pitts. That was pass interference. Anyway, Buffalo. I'd be remiss if we don't mention what Buffalo's doing after losing a ton of key players here. They lost so many parts on their defense, both their safeties, couple receivers, and they're coming out here 47 points. My goodness, 3-0. They're giving it to teams. Miami got it last week, Jacksonville this week. I'd like to see what happens next. They got the Ravens. We'll keep an eye on that one for sure.
All right. Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs have looked beatable in these first couple games. That is for sure. You would have expected a little bit more perk out of the offense. Travis Kelce hasn't been very involved. The refs have been giving them I don't want to say giving them, but the refs have made a few controversial calls in the past few weeks with Kansas City.
Yeah, a few. All right.
Those that aren't watching the YouTube channel right now, Anthony is rolling his eyes. He's a little bitter still, I think, from the other week. But
Yeah.
all right, we have those undefeated squads, but let's move into second down, man. There were some sleepers this week, some teams, some players that we weren't really thinking or paying too much attention to that really showed up and had a moment there. So any in particular that you want to touch on first? Who are you just like, guys, come on, we need to pay attention to these
I
people now?
mean, I got my man crush on Bo Nix. I saw him up close and personal.
Bo
Ladies and
Nix.
gentlemen, I saw him up close and personal. The guy's the real deal. He got through the Pittsburgh defense in Seattle, then he got Tampa, and he let them have it. He ran a little bit, he passed, he protected the ball, he took advantage of short field. He had a fast start, and he finished. And hey, Denver, all of a sudden, the wind is in their sails. Let's see what happens. Bo Nix.
That must have been hard for you, being at that game because you have been on the Bo Nix train since Denver drafted him. Before Denver even drafted him, you're like, this is the guy. This is going to be the best guy out of this group for quarterbacks. But you're now starting to become a secondary Buccaneers fan,
Yep.
by nature, living in the area, having fans and friends that are all Tampa fans. So how was that being in the game in the stands? Like, were you rooting for Bo Nix? Were you rooting for Tampa? Like, what were you doing?
No, it definitely hurt. It run deep. I lost money because I put money on the Buccaneers. I'm going to be honest here. I share my wins, but I share my losses. I pounded some sand, but it's okay. I appreciated Bo Nix's performance. And there was a ton of Denver Broncos fans there. Let it be known. Those Denver fans, they travel pretty well. And it was impressive all around. I was just happy to be at the game. I was happy to just soak it all in. Yeah,
Hmm.
for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were able to make some determinations through that experience, and you lost some money. Bo Nix really made you pay for that one. It seems like, but he
He
showed
did.
up, man. He knew you were at the game. He must have known. He was like,
He
my
knew.
biggest fanboy is here. I have to play the performance of my career for Antonino, and
Yep.
he showed up for you. So I'm glad. Uh, I happened to take a look as I was watching the Cowboy game at the box score, the ticker up in the corner during the broadcast, and I couldn't help but notice Carolina just
Mm,
putting it to
yep.
Vegas, the Raiders. And I once I dug into the numbers a little bit more, I happened to notice Andy Dalton really
That's right.
had himself a game. So I think people were kind of maybe dismissing this move that Carolina made last week. And I don't know if I said it on the podcast and in the show, or if I just said it to you in person off air, but I thought this move was going to make
Yep.
Carolina a competent team. Bryce Young has been that bad to start this season off. And I think even just some decent level competent quarterback play was going to elevate them. I didn't expect this degree, so I think it's a sleeper. But Anthony, real quick, I compared their stats through the first two games. Bryce Young didn't even throw over 300 yards. Andy Dalton did that in one game.
Jeez.
Bryce Young didn't throw a single touchdown. Andy Dalton threw three in one game.
It's
Bryce Young threw three picks in two games. Andy Dalton threw zero. So Andy Dalton is just coming out there and he's the Red Rocket 2.0 reincarnate.
the
That's
Red
got to be
Rocket.
happy to see from a Bengals perspective, right?
Yeah, the Red Rocket, the Red Rifle, whatever you want to call him, the Ginger God. He's back and he's taking full advantage, folks. This might be his last chance at a starting gig, and he's not going to let it go without a fight. It's a given. Bryce Young, he's toast. I thought he'd be back at some point this year. Nope, that's a wrap. Andy Dalton's performance said it all. He got Thielen the ball. He got the playmakers the ball. Everyone played better with Dalton. It's great to see. I just hope it doesn't continue to next week because they might play the Bengals.
They might play or they are.
They are playing the Bengals. So
Oh no.
Andy Dalton has a chance to do the funniest thing ever and get payback on the Bengals and send them spiraling at 0-4. But we don't have to go there. I'm not even going to speak it into the universe. We can move on to the next team.
I would be sweating if I were you. Yeah, I mean
Oh my god.
Carolina, they finished with 437 yards. This was their second highest point total in the past 5 seasons too, like in terms of yards. But first 300-yard passer, 100-yard rusher, 100-yard receiver for Carolina since week 8 of 2022. So it was a special performance that I don't think a lot of people were paying too much attention to. So I wanted to be that people, you know?
No, no, you did good. You did good. I think we might have a couple more here. Who do I have written down? The Rams. The Rams won the game against the 49ers. They
Crazy.
were they were down two separate times by 14 points. And mind you, they didn't have Cooper Cup. They didn't have your boy Puka Nakua. And they go out there and Kyron Williams, he rushes for a couple touchdowns. He catches a touchdown. And the Rams, after getting demolished by the Cardinals, demolished, they come back on the 49ers and win. Sleeper, well done, Rams.
I have to agree. You had to throw the Puka Nakua.
I'm not going to let you live that down. Yep.
And you saw I picked him up in our fantasy league too.
I did. I did. Man crush. Everyone, Nick has a man crush on Puka. Definitely a big fan of his. For
we
sure.
we did an episode at the beginning of the year, and I went on a rant about Puka Nakua. We ended up cutting it out of the episode because it was a little, I don't know.
I
I
laughed
was
so
going.
hard I cried. I laughed so
We
hard
should have
that I
kept it
cried.
then. I think people would have
Yeah.
enjoyed hearing me
Yeah.
just like really, basically wanting to take Puka Nakua out on a date. I think he's a hunky dory guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, one more man. The Giants, Malik Neighbors.
Ah,
I
man.
think he became the youngest wide receiver in NFL history to have two receiving touchdowns in a game. So, congrats to Malik Neighbors. I told you, I gave you the fantasy tip too this year that this guy was going to be a steal in round 4 or 5. I'm glad that you took him up when you had the opportunity. I have him in 2 leagues. And he's showing up, man. I just hope he doesn't show up this week, Thursday night against the Cowboys.
Ooh, yes, yes, yes. But neighbors, the real deal. I want to mention New York. Stand up, all your teams: the Giants, Buffalo, and the Jets. All three winning teams. New
Oh, nice.
York. That doesn't happen often, so relish that for sure. 3 games
It
in.
it probably won't happen again for another 20, 30
Yeah,
years when the sun's axis is hitting the right point with the lunar eclipse. These
yeah,
are
yeah,
you need a lot of things happening for that
yeah.
to occur. All right, man. Let's wrap up second down. Let's get into the half-minute halftime show. Kick us off, brother.
We have a ton of new listeners, and I want you to know if you like what we're spitting out, go on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, I take that last part back. Just proceed as normal. Thank you.
Yeah, don't give any ratings. Just
No
go
rating.
to the next podcast. But if you are enjoying the show, let us know. Follow, subscribe on all the social media platforms on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, First and 30. But that does it for the half-minute halftime show, Antonino. We're saving this one. Third and long. This is a long down. We're going to say it's third and long because everyone that's listening, Antonino and I, we are fans of the NFL, and we do have our allegiance to two particular football teams. I, a Dallas Cowboy fan, Antonino, a Cincinnati Bengal fan. Our teams had some big matchups, and we felt like, not just because we enjoy watching these teams and being fans, we felt like we should at least discuss what happened in these games. So who wants to do it first, man? You want to talk about the Bengals losing the other night against Washington, or should I bite the bullet with the Ravens?
I'm going to roll out the red carpet here. I want to hear from you back to back weeks in Jerry's world. What happened? There was a king that came to town by the name of Derrick Henry, and I heard he got a ton of yards. Let me have it.
Oh man. Yeah, where do I begin? 28-6 heading into the fourth quarter. My one caveat is Dallas made it entertaining. And as a fan of the NFL and of football, all that I can truly ask for is to be entertained. And I was entertained. The first 3 quarters, I was not. It was quite abysmal. I was this close. I was on the verge from leaving my parents' house. I watched the game with my father. He's a diehard Cowboys fan too. So it's something that we kind of put ourselves through misery together with. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to win too many games when you give up 274 yards rushing. That's 6 yards a clip, 3 rushing touchdowns. Henry accounted for 151 with 2 touchdowns. In the past 3 home games now, Dallas has given up 120 points. So, I mean, it's hard to win games when that kind of thing is happening. Not much you can do about it.
And you know what I hate to see is players just turning on each other. You know it's bad. They showed fight, but you did see CD Lamb kind of get a little loud on the sideline with Dak Prescott, and then also I noticed Parsons kind of tell someone to shut the bleep up on the sideline on the bench. The defense was really going at each other. You hate to see that. They got to stick together. These are two bad games, but they can move forward and do well. They got the Giants on Thursday.
They do. CD Lamb, something was up with him though this entire game. He was pretty emotional, really reactive. He was playing pretty undisciplined, honestly. I mean, he had a fumble earlier in that game that cost them potentially scoring a touchdown. And I mean, he had a few drops as well. Just did not have composure in some of these situations. So that was something I noticed. The silver lining, the one positive I do want to bring into this is Brandon Aubrey. I
Yep.
mean, the dude knocked in a 65-yard kick just a few weeks ago. He would have had the NFL record. He hit a 68-yarder that ended up not counting because Mike McCarthy called a timeout right before the play for
Mhm.
some strange reason. So, and then Aubrey had an onside kick that was recovered and gave
Mhm.
Dallas a shot. Dallas ultimately went downfield, scored. So I know I talked to some Ravens fans. They weren't happy about how this game ended. It's almost as if I was talking to them and they lost this game.
Yep.
That was the reaction I was getting from Ravens fans. So
Yep.
Baltimore fans that are listening, what's going on though? I mean, giving up what 19 unanswered in the fourth quarter with under 10 minutes, that's not a good look either.
This is what the Ravens do. And I'm not throwing shade, and any Ravens fan will tell you this. In the fourth quarter, over the past couple years, they're notorious for blowing second half leads where they're up by more than two scores. We saw that against the Raiders. They did it against the Colts and Browns last year. They've done this so many times. So any Baltimore fan will tell you this. I worry for the Cowboys for this one reason. I think teams are picking up on the fact that they can run on the Cowboys,
Oh
and
yeah.
that takes away the fantastic pass rush that they have because they can't just
Yeah.
charge up the field. So they're just going to run the ball. I'm afraid that might be their weakness.
Yeah, no, and the one thing I wanted to just mention before we move into the Bengals, they're a bottom 5 rushing team. Right now they're only averaging 73.7 yards per game, so 221 yards. They are the worst ranked rushing defense. They've given up 557 yards in 3 games. That's 185 a game. It's just awful. Like and they try to beef up the defensive line. It's just not working. Mike Zimmer needs to make some changes, obviously, or else he might not last this whole season.
Yeah, I mean, knowing Mike Zimmer from his time with Cincinnati, he'll make changes. I think it can only get better. You know, the Saints was a track meet. This game had Derrick Henry. It'll get better going forward for sure.
Let's hope so. All right, man. That's enough of my Cowboys. Let's get to the fresh wound, the one that doesn't have a scab on it quite yet. This one's still trying to heal. Your Bengals, you were very confident going into this game against Washington. Bengals were coming in 0-2, Washington 1-1. We're used to seeing Washington be one of the bottom feeders of the league. So you were fairly confident as we were prepping for this week's podcast that we weren't going to have the opportunity to kind of share this misery together. But as we saw, Washington got that win. They got that
You,
W. What
you,
happened?
if my nose starts to bleed,
No.
it's because the Bengals defense could not stop a nosebleed. It was so bad. And just when you think this is the team, it's finally back. Jamar Chase with long deep pass for a touchdown. We
Yeah,
get
he's
up
looking good.
early. Your offense hitting on all cylinders. We scored almost every time we had the ball, except for one missed field goal, which kind of kicked us in the rear later. This was the first game since 1940 with no turnovers and no punts.
I
Think
saw that.
about that. That
That's
is
wild.
insane.
That
And
is.
people ask me, how did the Bengals lose? Well, it wasn't their offense. That performance, Burrow 3 touchdowns, Jamar Chase 2 touchdowns, T. Higgins got involved. We ran the ball well. It was the defense. And I was confident all week, but I had a lot of Redskins fans from back home. I'm from Maryland, DMV, stand up, PG County. If you know, you know. I have a lot of Redskins fans back home, and I actually went to a Redskins bar for the game on accident. I didn't even know it was a Redskins bar. Walked to the bar closest to me, Irish bar. They had $2 beers. I go there, and they score a touchdown. And it was deafening how loud that room got. I'm like, what the heck did I just walk into? Like, it caught me off
What
guard.
jersey were you wearing? You were
Oh,
wearing a Bengals jersey,
I was
Baltimore?
wearing a Joe Burrow jersey, and no one said anything. And there's only like
No.
two guys with Redskins jerseys. But anyway, back to
Okay.
the defense. This was the worst defensive performance I have ever seen. The Redskins did not punt the ball. They scored every time they got it, except for the kneel down at half and the end of the game. They converted multiple fourth down conversions. They did whatever they wanted the whole game, and am I have a strong feeling changes are going to be made, but they
Oh,
weren't prepared for the mobile quarterback in
no,
Daniels.
no.
The whole game, it's like, did they not see the tape? Did they not even be ready for the option game at all? Like,
So it's
so
seeming
bad.
like our defensive coordinators for our two teams might be on the chopping block here soon if they can't make any sort of adjustments with the setups.
So the crazy part about this in the NFL, it's a week to week league. We just shut down Patrick Mahomes for 151 yards, and over the first two games, we let up the least passing yards in the whole NFL. And then we play Daniels and the Redskins, and they go off on us. And we did have two injuries on the interior of the defensive line, which hurts the run game. But there's no excuse to be gashed like we did in the pass game. We had our chances to stop them late. They got a 4th and 4 and got it. And then he threw a magical pass. Daniels in the corner of the end zone. We
Oh
had a
yeah, that was
blitz.
beautiful.
He gets hit. He drops it perfectly.
Right in
Like,
McLaurin's
wow.
lap. Yep.
All we had
And
to do was make that one stop, and it would have been a one-score game. Burrow would have won it, but not in the
Antonino
cards.
hasn't slept in days. He's wired over there. He's scrolling the doom
Gosh, darn.
scrolling about the Bengals.
Yeah, this is my therapy session. If you couldn't tell, I'm just
Oh
letting it
man.
all out. They're just frustrated. Not enough blitzes called against a rookie quarterback. What are we doing?
I think
Let's go.
this game like kind of rocked you a bit. I mean, you're calling Washington the Redskins. This knocked you back about 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, funny thing is, everyone at the Redskins bar, Commanders bar I went to, they all refer to them as the Redskins. They're all wearing the old school jerseys. I hope they bring the name back. And last point here, I feel good for the Redskins. All those fans back home have been through so much. I'm so happy to see them get this win, have a quarterback,
What?
have their guy.
You're
I,
happy?
I like to see the Redskins do good. I just wish it wasn't under those circumstances last night. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. That's enough. That's enough. People don't want to hear you cry about it too much more.
We're going to make the playoffs. I'm not worried.
Okay.
Fourth easiest schedule. We'll be in the playoffs.
Okay, dude. Well, fourth and forever time. Let's go for it. You
Let's
ready?
go
Let's
for
go
it.
for
Let's
it.
go for it. Fourth and forever. You know we're going for it.
Fourth and forever. So, is it time to click the panic button? I really wish we could have thrown the Bengals on here because I think it is time to click the panic button for them. Let's go through some teams. Let me kind of like rattle off some names. You give me some feedback here. Cleveland, they dropped the 1-2. They lost to the Giants. This was a game that people, I think, generally expected Cleveland to win. New York was 0-2 heading in, but they lose 21-15. Is it time to click the panic button, not only on Cleveland, but Deshaun Watson?
I got okay. See, now that you added that wrinkle in there, I was
Yeah.
gonna say no. It's not time to hit the panic button. But if they switch to Jameis Winston, there's hope.
Okay.
But if that happens, yeah, don't slam the panic button yet. Just switch quarterbacks.
Which is hard to do. We were
Yeah.
talking about this before we hopped on here. I mean, Watson right now, this could go down as one of the worst
Oh yeah.
sign and trades ever. One of the
Yep.
worst contracts ever. Not even in the NFL, but in like
Ever.
sports history.
Yep.
Because what he has like a 250 million guaranteed contract. This game, he was sacked 8 times. I am going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, though, because he had 3 offensive linemen injured, but he's been sacked the most in the league. He has the worst QBR just behind Bryce Young. It's a 27.3 QBR. He's only averaging about 5 yards a pass.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's
There's no show reason.
bad. It's
Yeah.
really bad. He just looks so incompetent and inept.
Lip.
It's yeah.
You can only put so much lipstick on a pig. So.
Dang. I think it is time to click panic. Same reasons. Myles Garrett was hurt in this game too, so we'll see what happens there. But Miami, they lost 24-3 to Seattle. They dropped to 1-2. The quarterback situation's dicey. Is it time to hit panic for Miami?
This is a quick one. Panic button. They better slam that button so hard. They're at their third string quarterback. They might elevate Tyler Huntley from the Ravens. He played with the Ravens for a short period of time. Yeah, panic button.
Yeah, I mean, they do have Tennessee coming up this weekend, New England and Indy, so we'll see there. One more. How about we get to one more? Tennessee. They now
Oh boy.
dropped they dropped to 0-3. They lost to Green Bay 30-14. Panic or not, are we clicking it?
I was gonna hit the panic button until I saw that they have Miami coming up and then the Colts. If they just play fundamental football without turning it over, they can easily get a couple wins right here. So I'm not pressing it yet.
Oh no, it's time, man. It is time to panic. Will Levis looks bad. He does not look like he's going to help this team win many games. I mean, he's right behind Watson, being sacked the most times. Leads the league. He's most sack yards, 101. He became a meme after this weekend. I know you've
Mhm.
seen it. You were
Yep.
posting stuff on our socials of
Yep.
him kind of taking groins to the face and everything. But I mean, they have a game against Buffalo and Detroit also on the schedule here in the next month. Just not looking good, man.
Yeah.
Panic time.
They knew there'd be growing pains, so there's no surprise there.
Yeah. All right, dude. Should we wrap this up and head into our 2-minute drill?
Let's hit it. No huddle.
Let's go.
Christian McCaffrey is flying to Germany to check out his injury. It must be serious if you're flying to Germany.
Wow. And then the Raiders are sticking with Gardner Minshew after he was benched in this last week's loss against Carolina, but they are going to ride it out with him.
Good on them, but another team is going to lose a player, Derwin James, suspended 1 game's head-to-head contact, multiple violations.
And mentioning Carolina again, Adam Thielen is going to be placed on IR after he suffered a hamstring injury on a touchdown catch in that game against Vegas.
When Derek Carr scored a touchdown, he did the Michael Jackson dance. Yup, he got fined $14,000 for that.
Dang. And then Jerry Jones is actually taking accountability for once in his life on why Dallas has started off 1-2. This was shocking to me because I don't think has ever taken any accountability. He's the only GM that's been on the same team for like 40 years and hasn't won a Super Bowl. So
the Bengals offensive lineman Trent Brown tore his patellar tendon. He will be out for the season.
And then the New Orleans Pro Bowl center Eric McCoy is going to need groin surgery. He's going to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a big loss for the Saints.
Some sad news came out of a court hearing today. Brett Favre announced that he was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. You hate to hear it. Wishing him the best.
And another injury to note, Pittsburgh's edge rusher Alex Highsmith is also going to miss a few weeks because of a groin injury as well. So the groin injuries are piling up for some reason here this past week.
Last but not least, Dan Campbell, head coach for the Detroit Lions, had to list his house for sale on Zillow last week. His daughter leaked their address at school, and they started hazing him for their loss last week, prior to this weekend. And they go to his house, and they would do things to his yard, and he's buying a new house, and he's probably going to get a nice gate, nice old gate around that house.
What the heck? All right. Well, that does it for the 2-minute drill, man. And I think that does it for this week's episode. Any last words, Antonino?
I hope we don't need a therapy session next week. But nonetheless, this was good for me. I hope it was good for everyone listening. And you know the drill. We'll see you on the next one. The next one is the best one.
That's right. So until next Wednesday, thank you for joining us for another episode of the First and 30 podcast. Remember, when your number's called, no matter the odds,
just go for it.
Just go for it.
Yeah.